Well, welcome to No Tie July. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get it done. Bobby's got the buttons. Roll it, Bobby. For reasons I cannot explain, there is this kerfuffle at the Metro Council over council representation. With me now talking about that is Metro Council member representing District 5, Darryl Hurst. So because of the population of East Baton Rouge Parish, the representation at the legislative level should reflect that, which would be 6 minority seats, 6 non-minority seats, but there is a push for that not to happen. Talk to me about that.
As I explained during the press conference, when I initially came into office, I was told that there would be one major controversial issue that would be discussed, and it wasn't racism. It was self-preservation. And that self-preservation moment was redistricting. And they said, hey, let me ask you this. What if the roles were reversed? Would you cut yourself out of your own district? And so while my response to them was probably, no, I wouldn't cut myself out, that doesn't mean that it's right and that it's fair. And so while they haven't cut themselves out, what we've done is filed a lawsuit to make sure that the maps really say that we should have about 7 out of the 12 seats, not 6. But we believe by giving us that 6th seat, we'll have fair representation to make sure that every part of Baton Rouge has the resources that they need to become the cities that we model after, like a Greenville or an Austin, which has a higher median income, where people are educated, employed, and have entrepreneurial skills.
So we have this weird city council form of government because you are also a member of the parish council in addition to representing your district. And you said it could be 7, but you're only asking for 6. Why? Based
on the census, it says that we should have 7 districts, or 6 point something, which means we would have the majority. Yeah. It doesn't say officially 7, it says 6, I believe it's 6.8 out of the 12 districts. So we feel that based on the census and based on the courts, first it'll come to us, we believe, to try to draw a map that makes sense. We gave them a map, it was rejected. Secondly, if that is rejected again on the Metro Council level, then the courts will decide, as they have done on the congressional and state maps as well.
Who's fighting this?
So we have 5 Metropolitan Council members, which will be starting with District 2, Chawna Banks, District 5, which would be me, District 6, Cleve Dunn, District 7, Mayor Pro Tem Lamont Cole, District 10, Councilwoman Carolyn Coleman, and we have 2 individuals that are named in the lawsuit as well, former council member of Zachary, Leo Montgomery, and former NAACP president, Eugene Collins.
So when you talk to your colleagues on the Metro Council about this, what's their position?
Again, it's
non-minority.
So non-minority, again, is it's about saving their seats. It's not about where they're on issues. It's about self-preservation. Yeah. And here's the deal. You can't tell me what it's like to walk a day in a black man's shoes in Baton Rouge or in America. And I can't tell you what it's like to walk a day in a white person's shoes in America. I have but what I can say is there are disparities. There's inequity and there's lack of equality there to make sure that all parties are represented in a way that they should. And Florida Boulevard has been that dividing line. And so what happened during those redistricting talks is that it said because the majority of the black parish, which is 68% of the parish, majority minorities have been lumped into 42% of the districts, right? And I might be saying those numbers wrong, so correct me. Y'all go back and look at it. But the bottom line, it gives us five seats. Yeah. And they said it's so heavily black north of Florida Boulevard, which is a protected class, by the way, due to the Voting Rights Act, that they could not find a way to get to that 6th or 7th seat the way that Baton Rouge is divided. We disagreed. We've had a number of demographers as well as citizens who are great with maps bring something to us and say, hey, it can be different, and I'll show you how.
How do we move forward here? We got about a minute left. There's so much going on in the parish now. You have a new city that's been formed. All of the machinations and elections are this fall. Where do you see us going in the next couple of years?
Well, you brought it up earlier. We do have a consolidated form of government where we have a Metropolitan Council where the mayor is the president of the parish, and the Metropolitan Council members are city council members as well as parish council members. You know, hey, the city of St. George decided, I support them. They're within the parish. I want to see them thrive and do extremely well. I want to see Baker do well. I want to see Zachary do well. I want to see Central do well. But I also want to make sure that Baton Rouge does not get left in the dust either. Yeah. And so the reason that they wanted to all break apart is because of the education system not being what it was, the economics not being where they are. And so through this 6th seat, our goal is to put emphasis on places where we have not emphasized in the past. And now we do have that median household income growing, so people want to live in Baton Rouge and not just in those other cities.
We'll keep the conversation going. I appreciate you, Councilman, for coming in. There is this new treatment that deals with pancreatic cancer. I'll show it to you next. So I've had the pleasure of working with the Elvin Howard Sr. Pancreatic Cancer Advocacy Foundation. Long name, but great work. But before we start, I want to take a moment to shout out the state champs at Southern Lab. Coach Darryl Asbury gave me this helmet signed by each member of the team last week, and I recently had to keep Darryl Hurst from walking out of the building with it. He was going to try to take it, Veronica. Veronica Howard-Sizer, Dr. Patrick McLaren are here. Let's talk, V, about the Elvin, what would we say, Elvin Howard PCAF.
There you go.
Tell us about the foundation.
Well, I'm glad that you used the acronym because that is the easiest way to say that. But the Elvin Howard Sr. Pancreatic Cancer Advocacy Foundation, or Elvin Howard Sr. PCAF, is an organization that focuses on awareness about getting the word out about pancreatic cancer. And not just pancreatic cancer, there are a whole host of diseases that have horrible numbers when it comes to social determinants of health, right? Those, you know, the diabetes and the other cancers out there, the breast cancers and the like. So what we found as we continue to do this work is that there's a commonality among many of them, and generally those negative social determinants of health negatively affect those people with pancreatic cancer the worst.
Dr. McLaren, we were talking during the break. Science has come a very long way. I mean, this was an almost immediate death sentence years ago, and now there are some optimistic options for people who are dealing with that. Could you talk about that?
Yeah, the treatment for pancreatic cancer often involves now what we call a multidisciplinary approach. So chemotherapy, potentially radiation, surgery, and even more advanced immunotherapies to target cancer from many different directions. And pancreatic cancer is still a very aggressive cancer, but when caught early, it is something that is treatable.
So let's talk about that. We were talking during the break about Sean Wallace, who's a mutual friend of ours who announced his current status health-wise a few weeks ago, and there was some optimism behind that. Where do you see the next decade taking us as it relates to science and treating pancreatic cancer and some of the other cancers that V mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think the biggest step in treating pancreatic cancer is probably going to be in early detection, because as I mentioned, you know, when we detect it early, it's treatable. It's when you catch it late that it becomes a problem. And so I think, you know, scientifically being able to identify patients who are high risk for pancreatic cancer and detect it before it's spread is really the goal of a lot of treatment now.
You know, I've had the opportunity to work with the foundation for years, and I remembered Veronica's mother telling the story about her father, the namesake of the organization, who succumbed to pancreatic cancer, and she noticed things about him, the jaundiced eyes, the way he carried himself. So what are some things that you would tell people to be aware of if they have some suspicions?
Well, certainly jaundice, weight loss, new onset diabetes. So those are three of the big signs. And then Family history of pancreas cancer is one of the strongest predictors of developing in any individual.
What about some of the work the foundation is doing now, not just dealing with people who are going through it, but you are advocating in advance of to make people aware of how horrible this is, but that it is not a death sentence immediately anymore? Absolutely,
and that's why we're so excited to be working with Dr. McLaurin. We met him actually last year at our fundraiser. He did a presentation, and I am not kidding, he got a standing ovation, okay, and got rave reviews, and the senator wanted to promote him right away because of the wonderful news that's coming out of Baton Rouge General working with Dr. McLaurin. And so I said all that to say that, yes, we need to put it out there, and one of the things that we're doing is this symposium that's coming up in a couple of weeks where we're going to focus on Dr. McLaurin's work.
We have a flyer for that, Alyssa. Can we pop that up on the screen on July, there it is, July 11th at 6 p.m. Tell me quickly about this.
So this will be touching on some of the work that we're doing at Baton Rouge General in a partnership with Mary Bird Perkins. We have developed a pancreatic cancer screening clinic. So it identifies, our goal is to identify patients who are high risk for pancreatic cancer. So with a family history with certain genetic mutations, and get them enrolled in a program where we are testing them annually to try and identify the disease at its earliest stage with imaging, with blood tests, and even with certain procedures to go biopsy the pancreas to catch it early where we can treat it.
And then quickly, I got 30 seconds, in November, I saved the date. What's happening in November?
November always, the second Friday in November, we have our annual fundraiser, and so save that date. It's at 7 o'clock. And the week before, we have our 5K walk run. It's in conjunction with the City of Baker, one of our great partners, so we're excited about both of those events.
You'll be back before then to talk about it again.
Yes, we will.
Doc V, I appreciate y'all coming on. She has been really a pillar of manners and decency in our community. She wrote a book. She'll be here to tell you about it next. So I know if you listen to radio around Baton Rouge, you've heard this lady's voice for the last 5 years?
Something like that.
Something like that?
Something like that.
Jill Garner is the force behind Manners of the Heart, and she also is the author of a brand new book. There it is, Strong Heart, and we're going to get a chance to talk about that. The book debuts this week. So Jill, let's start with Manners first.
Okay.
How long has Manners been around now?
Oh goodness, 21 years.
21 years.
21 years.
Let's talk about the vision of the organization if people don't know that.
Well, the mission of Manners of the Heart as our organization is to reawaken respect in our society for the sake of the next generation. So everything we do, excuse me, whether it's elementary curriculum or whether it's our parenting books, it's all to help the next generation grow up and become all they're meant to be.
Now, you have been offering this curriculum not just in schools here, you've been in Oklahoma and in other places as well, right?
Yes, we're, in fact, we're international now. We have school in Kampala, Uganda.
Wow.
Which is really very exciting. It's a precious school. We've been with them for 4 years now. And then we also have a school in Mexico City.
This is amazing. So Strong Heart, tell me about Strong Heart, your latest book.
Yes. So Strong Heart is kind of the culmination of 21 years of this work that I've been doing in the educating of the hearts of children. And the definition of a strong heart is truly a morally courageous kid who is grounded in truth and fortified with self-respect, not self-esteem, self-respect, who will be able to overcome the trials of our culture, right, and overcome it all and still be able to stand. I always like to say this is a kid who's going to stand when others sit down. You know, this is a kid who's going to fall, but they're going to get back up, right? And they're going to be able to lead their next generation in the right direction.
You've been, we referenced the curriculum in schools and what you've been able to do with kids, and over the years you've told me stories about kids and how they interact with each other after having gone through the Manners curriculum. Give me some examples of some of that.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I have a third grade story for you.
Okay.
So I got a call from a principal who said, "Jill, you got to come right now. You got to hear this story." So I dropped and left, and of course went to hear. And what had happened is a third grader was being bullied and having a lot of trouble, and had tried to deal with it on their own. And finally told his mother, you know, what was going on. Well, his mother said, "Well, go take the kid out." go take the kid, quote unquote, go take the kid out.
Okay.
And so the little boy said, oh. And so for 2 weeks he struggled again because he couldn't reconcile that thought as being the right thing to do. He finally told his teacher. So his teacher took him to the principal, of course, and said, you know, what are we going to do? And she said, well, so you're not going to take the kid out, huh? You know, and he said, no, because that's not what Wilbur's been telling me. Wilbur is the mascot, the lead of our curriculum. And she said, no, Wilbur's not been telling you that? And he said, no, Wilbur's been telling me to make the bully my friend. I want to be his friend because I know he has trouble in his heart.
Wow.
Third grader.
Third grader.
Third grader. And so the
Showing
end of the
a lot
quick
more
story.
Sense than some of the adults in this story.
Well, very much so. And so the end of the story is, by the end of the school year, they brought the little boy in that had been the bully. And when the little boy heard that I just want to be your friend because I know you've got trouble in your heart, they ended up best friends by the end of the school year, completely turned that little kid's life around.
That is awesome. Yep. And that kid is a strong heart.
Absolutely a strong heart.
Where can people get the book?
It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. Tomorrow's the official release date. It's from Moody Publishers, one of the big guys. Yep. And it's everywhere. You're going to be hearing a lot about that book.
And then they can go to your website, which is?
mannersoftheheart.org or JillGarnerContent.org.
So you can hear some of the Manners moments on the website. You can read a lot about what Jill and Manners has done over the last 2 decades, not just here, but internationally. So fantastic. And she brought cookies this as we take this too, and I'm going to get right into those as soon as we finish the segment. Jill, thank you for all that you do.
Oh, thank you, Clay.
Let's talk about celebrating veterans and dealing with some of the ills of the men and women who have defended America. We'll do that next. So Veterans Week is a really, really special occasion here in Baton Rouge. It features everything from a daddy-daughter dance. There are events downtown. There is even a fall version of Smoke 'em If You Got 'em, all going on. And here's the man behind it, Anthony Winters, attorney, veteran. And man, we've had a chance to work together on Veterans Week the last couple of years, and we're going to do it again this year. Before we go ahead to November, let's kind of talk about the status of Veterans Affairs in Louisiana right now. You've got colleagues that you've served with who are here and in other parts of the country. Where would you rate the way we are taking care of veterans now?
To be frank, I think it's on an upward trajectory. We have not done our level best as a state, as a community. We've not done our level best. We do bits and pieces, but we've not done an organized, consistent effort on the part of the civilians, on the part of us, helping push the government to do what they need to do. I say we're trending, we have a great trend upward because we have good leadership. Our governor's fantastic. You know, he left the Attorney General's office, even when I served for him over there, Governor Landry had me work on a veterans case, and it sparked my passion for me to launch VeteransDefender.com. The current Secretary of Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs and all of his staff, they're exceptional. Those leaders over there, he has bona fide service as a military judge. So we have good leaders over there that really care about the bottom line grassroots of their policies helping veterans. So we're on an upward trajectory. But what can we do as civilians here in the community? There's work that we can do. One, organize around some of these great events like we have, like the mayor of Baton Rouge, as she comes in and helps us with Red Stick Veterans Week, all of her staff, and they're very supportive of it, that the Veterans Affairs Commission that she has, they do wonderful work. Hiring veterans, that's really the key. We have to figure out ways to get our talent acquisition people, our chief people officers, our human resources directors, to understand that you're hiring a great talent, but you may have somebody that may need appointments. So be open to supporting them as they become reintegrated into civilian life, you know. So that's important.
So what is your goal for Veterans Week? I mean, like I said, you've been doing it for a while. What is your goal? What do you hope to accomplish?
Years ago when I came to you and I told you about this, to beg you to come on board and be a partner with us, is that, you know, our goal is to raise awareness. We had got to a point in this country where 22 veterans were completing suicide per day. That's terrifying. That number should be alarming to all of us. If we had 22, any profession, completing suicide, then we all should rush to go help.
Right.
And we should rush to go help veterans. How do we raise the awareness so we can help the family members? There's about 220 to 240,000 veterans in the state. That number fluctuates so much. But if you look at them and their family members, they make up about 20 to 25% of the population of the state of Louisiana. So a veteran and his family member is 1/4 of the people of this state. What we can do is raise awareness so the family members can identify it, the friends can identify it, the employer can identify, wait a minute, maybe this veteran is needing help. Maybe they're in crisis. Holidays like the 4th of July is like everybody else is having fun and fireworks. I miss my colleagues from the Army. I'm like, you know, I missed, you know, you see that flag flying and it remembers, you know, it gives you the memories of this is why we did it. We didn't do it for us. We did it for our families and our friends. You know, that's why we serve.
Quickly here, if someone wants to support Veterans Week, how do they do that?
Just hit us up on Instagram, Red Stick Veterans Week, at Red Stick Veterans Week. Go to veteransdefender.com or
there it is.
at Veterans Defender. And last year we had so much fun. We had the Devil Dog Dash, the Marine Corps Ball. We had the mayor out there with us on the 5K that we did. So many partners, so many sponsors, but we need you. We need more to come out and help us out.
We'll be a part of it, and we'll get you back before Veterans Week so we can come in and talk about this. We'll be doing Smoke 'em Again in the fall out there over at Don Juan. So I'm looking forward to it.
So much fun at Don Juan.
It's great. So listen, next week I'm going to introduce you to someone who is an amazing story, really more amazing than you'd find anywhere. Someone who has been incarcerated, someone who has taken their life, turned it around, built a business, and is now impacting young people across the state of Louisiana. He's been a friend of mine for almost 30 years, and I can't wait to share his story with you next week on the show. James Abram will be on, former musical guy. He was a rapper, Anthony, and like I said, now he's a business guy doing fantastic things. Here's the handle of where you can find me on social media. You guys have a fantastic weekend.